My golden child sister tried to charge me rent for her couch. When I said no, she went for $20,000 blackmail. She didn't expect me to have receipts. All right, Reddit, buckle up. Let's dive into the family circus I got stuck starring in. I'm 30 male, and I've basically had responsible stamped on my forehead since middle school. Parents, dead. Childhood, gone. My sister Haley, spoiled rotten, treated like royalty from the jump. Fast forward, and here I am. Degree finally finished, working in project management, renting a shoebox in a city that eats half my paycheck every month. Not glamorous, but I was stable enough, until corporate decided I was non-essential, which is HR speak for pack your desk. 6 weeks into the job, gone. Cue eviction notices and ramen diets. Naturally, I thought the one person I'd sacrificed half my youth for, my golden child sister, might have my back. Spoiler, her definition of help was trying to charge me $300 a week to sleep on her couch like I was some kind of broke Airbnb guest. But before I even got there, the pattern had been set years earlier. If you've ever wondered what it's like to grow up as the designated responsible one, let me give you the short version. I paid the bills, and my sister got the cheer bows. Literally. At 13, I was stocking shelves, so at least once a week we ate something that wasn't freeze-dried. My paycheck kept the lights on. Meanwhile, Grandma was wiring Haley money for essentials like matching sneakers for her cheer squad. Family motto, she's younger, she deserves a normal life. Translation, you, my guy, can handle the stress ulcers. The store I worked at didn't exactly ask for birth certificates. Officially, I was on weekends and short shifts. Unofficially, the assistant manager let me shadow a closer and paid me cash for the hours the schedule couldn't show. Mrs. Patel from aisle 4 drove me home because buses stopped early, and I hid my tip money in a cereal box so Mom wouldn't borrow it for scratch-offs. HR was a bulletin board thumbtack and a paper calendar. It wasn't noble. It was logistics. Fast forward to 17. Haley borrows my old Civic, introduces it to a mailbox at 35 miles per hour, and somehow I'm the one coughing up the deductible. Mom didn't say, maybe Haley should pay for once. No, her line was, be a good big brother. My car limped home with a door that whistled in the wind like a kazoo. The mailbox? Upgraded to a titanium fortress. The policy was in my name because the Civic was. Mom said filing it under Haley would ruin her start. Translation? My premiums took the punch. The adjuster didn't care who drove. The car was tied to me, so was the bill. My rate jumped for 12 months, and I covered it with extra shifts bagging kettlebells for January people who quit by February. Graduation was the cherry on top. Program said the ceremony ran until noon. My family dipped before the dean finished mispronouncing names because Haley's birthday party couldn't wait. They didn't even try to hide it. Cake pickup greater than my diploma. Priorities. Let's talk parents because people always ask, where were they? Dad died when I was 5. His main contribution before checking out was drilling into me that I had to look out for your sister. Mom died when I was 22, after years of unreliable everything, housing, jobs, opinions. Her signature move? Telling me, Haley first, you'll manage. Spoiler, I did manage because I didn't have a choice. After they were gone, Grandma and Aunt Karen slid right into the favoritism seats like understudies who'd been rehearsing for years. Same script, just louder. So yeah, decades of Haley first, you'll manage became muscle memory in this family. Every bill I covered, every ride I gave, every favor I pulled, none of that mattered. Haley's wins were celebrated. My effort was assumed. If you think I'm exaggerating, I've got receipts. Real ones. Printed. Because memory gets creative around relatives, but math doesn't. Anyway, skip to present. I'm 30. Haley's 27. She's married to Connor, who has the personality of a silent screensaver, but apparently veto power on everything. I live in an expensive city because that's where the jobs are. My apartment is basically a shoebox with a window, but hey, it's mine. I finally finished my degree and landed a role at Halberd Systems, which felt like winning the lottery. Finally, something for me. 6 weeks in, corporate does what corporate does best. Cuts to stay agile. That's the exact phrase in the email. They should have added, thanks for your service, don't let the door hit you. HR gave me a 10-minute meeting, half of which was spent explaining how this isn't about your performance. Right, 2 weeks severance. My landlord accepts cash, not pep talks, so now the clock is ticking. Rent's coming up. My account balance is shrinking faster than Haley's patience when you ask her to split a dinner bill. I do the obvious thing. I look at my one surviving relative who isn't already dead or broke and think, surely this is the moment my years of carrying the family mean something. The ask was microscopic. Couch, air mattress, whatever, just until I land another paycheck. I wasn't asking to move in and start hanging motivational posters on her walls. Just a couch. The same couch I helped her move into that apartment. I call her on a Tuesday night. She answers sounding cheerful, which in hindsight should have been my red flag. I explain the situation. Laid off, need a couch for a few weeks, I'll be out during the day. Zero disruption, zero cost to her. Her answer? Connor isn't comfortable with that. Said like she was reading off a customer service script. No hesitation. Just a hard no. I thought maybe she misunderstood, so I tried again. Not a room, not long term. Just the couch. Air mattress if you want me off the cushions. Same response. It's our sanctuary. We need to protect our peace. Protect their peace. Incredible. When I was working 2 jobs at 19 and pushing her through high school, peace wasn't on the menu. But now peace is apparently endangered by me and an air mattress. She invited me over Sunday to talk it through. I said great, because who doesn't love documentation when they're broke? The night before, she called again, all honey, to say she and Connor had reconsidered. For 5 whole minutes, I let myself believe she would act like a sister. Rookie mistake. I showed up. Haley had props waiting. First, she set down a laminated guest policy card, a cheery pastel rectangle with rules printed like a brunch menu. Quiet hours, kitchen curfew, bathroom signups, no packages. Then she slid over a typed agreement with a signature line at the bottom, like I'd wandered into a leasing office by accident. The agreement wanted $300 a week for access to the couch, $500 upfront as a non-refundable security deposit, and compliance with every bullet on the laminated card. Kitchen closed after 7 p.m. Bathroom by appointment. Sanctuary standards apply. I asked, so this is your idea of reconsidering? You're charging me rent for your couch. She didn't blink. It's only fair. You're intruding on our home, and this will cover it. We worked hard to make this a sanctuary. Connor, occupying his natural habitat at the edge of the conversation, offered the sort of sentence you staple to a fence post. It's about boundaries. No follow-up, no warranty. Intruding. That was the word she used for me. When I worked 2 jobs at 19 so she could finish high school, that wasn't intrusion. That was the family slogan. Be a good big brother. But a few weeks on an air mattress? Suddenly, I was a hazard to the altar of her living room. I told them no thanks and left the paper stack sitting exactly where she'd planted it. I wasn't debating couch economics. Walking out, it was obvious. The laminated card and the contract weren't rules. They were a barrier, a shiny way to say no without owning it. She got to perform generosity while making it impossible. A week later, the eviction notice came in red letters. Pay up or get out. I called Haley because apparently I collect mistakes. I laid it out. This is it. I'm out of options. She recycled the line I already knew by heart, now with Connor's stamp. He isn't comfortable. No space, no week, no nothing. I called the landlord anyway, offered half now, half on payday, even sent screenshots of interviews lined up. He said he couldn't set a precedent. I dialed the city hotline. The rent relief waitlist was longer than the lease you signed to join it. Paperwork moves, rent dates don't. Meanwhile, I was rotating between my girlfriend Brooke's couch, my friend Nate's futon, and an air mattress in a friend's spare room that smelled permanently of takeout. I showered at the gym and stuffed my backpack with clean clothes like I was on some low-budget tour. And through it all, Haley knew exactly where I was and what I was dealing with. Didn't matter. Pride wasn't the only limiter. Brooke's lease caps overnights at 7 per month, and her roommate counts like a librarian. Nate's building scans IDs after 10 p.m. and hits you with a $250 guest violation if your name shows up too often. I wasn't about to get my friends fined because my family confused boundaries with barricades. The peanut gallery showed up on cue, just not in the way you'd hope. Grandma mailed Haley a baby fund check that same week I was bouncing between futons. Not a word to me, just a Facebook post about how proud she was of her strong girl holding it all together. Aunt Karen went over to babysit twice that week and posted selfies of herself pushing the stroller around the block. When I texted asking if I could crash at her place for a few nights, she told me her guest room was full of storage. Funny how the storage cleared out quick enough when Haley needed a night off. They didn't need to say be a good big brother anymore. They showed it. Every time they funneled help Haley's way, while I priced instant noodles. So, there I was, homeless light, eating microwave noodles out of paper bowls while my sister lived in her sanctuary apartment with a brand new rug and the piece I apparently intruded on just by existing. And the family chorus was clapping for her bravery. Of course they were. This was the same routine I'd grown up with, the same script Mom and Dad had followed before they died. Haley was the chosen one, the golden child. My role was to manage, carry the weight, and never complain. Nothing had changed except the stakes. Halfway through my tour of sofas and spare floors, Haley called like a Craigslist fairy godmother. They'd bought new furniture, so her old couch was available. "You can take it for free," she added. "See how good of a sister I'm being?" I asked whether watching the couch leave would make Connor uncomfortable, or if discomfort only applied when I was on it. She didn't applaud the joke. The part she left out: I'd need to rent a truck and haul it down 3 flights because Connor has a back thing. Incredible how his spine flares up only when generosity might cost him sweat. The irony is, I wasn't asking for much. 3 weeks on a couch, maybe 4. I would have bought my own groceries, kept the place clean, been out during the day. But it didn't matter. She made it clear that my only way in was through her little laminated toll booth, and I wasn't about to pay tribute to my own sister. Brooke tried to keep me grounded. She told me point blank that Haley didn't want me there, and that was all I needed to know. Brooke's great because she doesn't sugarcoat. If Haley had wanted to help, Connor wouldn't have been an obstacle. He would have been a speed bump. The fact that she hid behind him said everything. Nate, on the other hand, was useless. His advice was basically, don't be hard on her, man. Newlyweds need space. Easy to say when you're not the one with your life in a backpack. If Nate ever ends up in my position, I'll be sure to tell him not to disturb his sister's feng shui. By the end of the month, I was still standing, barely. Evicted from my place, bouncing between friends, scraping together meals, sending out resumes like confetti. I landed a temp job, which was something, but it didn't change the fact that my sister had turned me away when I needed her the most. And Grandma and Aunt Karen were still on her side, applauding her for setting boundaries, like she was doing something noble. The kicker was when Haley texted me a photo of her new rug. Caption: "Finally feels like home." This was while I was literally sleeping in a room that smelled like cardboard and sweat socks. She wanted me to congratulate her on decorating her castle, while I couldn't even get a corner of her couch. I didn't respond. What would I even say? Congrats on the rug. Sorry I couldn't afford your guest fee. 6 months after the couch fiasco, I'd clawed back to stable. The temp contract I'd taken, through an agency placed back at Halberd Systems after the layoff, converted to full-time. My first paycheck cleared, and for once I wasn't one unexpected bill away from sleeping under a bridge. I posted a tiny victory blip on LinkedIn, excited to start full-time at Halberd Systems. Nothing flashy, just a pulse check that I'd survived. Grandma shared it with every emoji Facebook keeps in a barn. That's how Haley found out. We hadn't spoken for months, but now she had the company, the title, and enough to guess the email format. It was like handing her a loaded starter pistol. For anyone keeping score, yes, same company I got cut from at 6 weeks. A staffing agency slid me back in as a contractor when a different team needed hands. New boss, new cost center. I kept my head down, shipped tickets, converted. Corporate musical chairs. Survive long enough and the music loops. A week later, the first email arrived. Subject line: "Family helps family." Already promising. She opened with a lecture about how families are supposed to be there for each other, then pivoted into the real meat. She and Connor had a mortgage problem. Their adjustable rate loan had reset, their payment had jumped, and suddenly the golden couple couldn't keep up with the bills. She didn't ask if I could help. She assumed I would. Her exact words: "You're the responsible one. Grandma always said so. Now it's time to step up." I stared at the screen. This was the same woman who wouldn't let me crash on her couch for 3 weeks, now expecting me to save her house. I replied with one line: "I can't co-sign or loan you money. I'm rebuilding right now." I thought that would be the end of it. Silly me. The next email landed 2 days later. Subject line: "Final family invoice. $20,000. Yes, she literally called it an invoice, like I was her bank. She wrote that unless I wired 20 grand or co-signed a consolidation loan by Friday at 5 p.m., she would have no choice but to hold me accountable. I guess accountable is Haley speak for blackmail. She attached screenshots of old text arguments, cropped and pasted together like a bad ransom note. One had me calling her a leech, except the timestamp font was iOS 2023, while the argument supposedly happened in 2017. I didn't know my phone was a time traveler. The entitlement was off the charts. She didn't even try to be polite. She wrote things like, "You've coasted long enough on being the good sibling. Now prove it." She looped in Grandma and Aunt Karen like it was a board meeting. Grandma didn't call to ask how I was. She forwarded Haley's invoice to me with a sticky note email. "Please just do this for her. She's overwhelmed." Aunt Karen went a step further and drafted the first paragraph of a GoFundMe: "Help my niece keep a roof over her baby's head." then sent it to Haley with heart emojis. Hands shaking, I spun up a folder on my desktop, Haley receipts, and started filing everything. Subject lines like debt notices, doctored screenshots with timestamps from a future iOS, a draft GoFundMe starring me as the villain. Brooke read them and said what the subject lines wouldn't. This isn't help. It's extortion. Nate floated. She's under stress, which is the kind of sentence that evaporates in sunlight. By midweek, Haley's tone had gone from entitled to flat-out rude. She sent one that said, "Stop pretending you don't have the money. I know what Halberd pays. Grandma told me your title." She actually thought I'd hand over my paycheck details because she'd Googled my job description. She ended with, "Do the right thing, or HR will find out what kind of brother you really are." And that's when I knew this wasn't just family drama anymore. She was threatening my livelihood. She wanted to nuke the one thing I'd managed to rebuild, just because I wouldn't write her a giant check. I didn't reply. I didn't cave. I just added it to the folder. Then came the cherry on top. She sent a draft GoFundMe link titled, "Help keep a roof over my baby's head. My brother refuses to help." She CC'd me and wrote, "If you won't step up, I'll have to show everyone what kind of person you are." I closed my laptop, took a deep breath, and decided right then, I wasn't going to let Haley write the narrative this time. I'd played the role of the responsible one my whole life while she coasted on being the golden child. But this was her trying to cash in on a lifetime of favoritism, like it was a blank check. I kept feeding the folder, debt collector subject lines, cropped proof, the GoFundMe draft with my name in bold. If this were a trading card game, my deck could wipe the floor with her. My sister had fully embraced her role as self-appointed collections agent. I stopped playing doormat and started playing adult. But I didn't stop at the new stuff. No, I went digging into the archives. Years of playing the responsible sibling had left a paper trail, and now I was about to cash it in. First, the electric bill I paid when I was a teenager, while Grandma sent Haley money for her cheer fees. Still had the confirmation page saved in an old email account. Then the insurance statement for the Civic deductible. Yep, still sitting in my files, because apparently I hoard trauma like it's tax paperwork. I even dug up the graduation program that showed the ceremony was supposed to last until noon, with a time-stamped text from Karen, bragging about leaving early to decorate for Haley's birthday. Beautiful symmetry. This wasn't about proving I was a saint. It was about having hard numbers and receipts to shove in the face of anyone who tried to buy Haley's version of the story. Because I knew how this family worked. The moment she cried, "Help me," Grandma and Karen would dust off the old script and say, "You need to act good to your sister." And sure enough, they had already started. With my receipts in order, the next step was obvious. Tell the one group that Haley was threatening to involve, before she got to them. HR. I typed up the shortest, most professional email of my life. 2 paragraphs, 5 attachments. I explained that a family member was making threats to smear me at work unless I gave her money, that I wasn't asking them to take action, just to log the facts in case anything landed in their inbox. I attached the extortion emails, the doctored screenshots, the GoFundMe draft, and one tidy timeline of events. Then I hit send. Their reply came back within an hour. "Thanks for the proactive heads up. Logged as reputation risk. No action required." They also linked the off-duty conduct policy and told me to keep forwarding anything that touched the company. "Document, don't engage," the HR rep wrote. For once, a rule I could get behind. They also noted that any messages sent to company inboxes would be quarantined and attached to my file with the prior evidence. Bureaucracy for once worked like Kevlar. That was it. But those 2 sentences were worth more than anything Haley could ever dangle. It meant if she tried to burn me down, the company already had the fire report. Next step, lawyer. I called a local firm, explained the situation, and by the end of the day, I had an attorney drafting a cease and desist letter with words like extortion, harassment, and all future contact directed to counsel. I didn't need them to sue her into the ground. I just needed the letterhead and the threat of consequences. That alone is often enough to make people like Haley pause. Then I went full boring adult mode, filed a police report, just to have an incident number on record, froze my credit in case she decided to get creative with my social security number, told my building manager to flag her name at the front desk, since the last thing I needed was Haley waltzing in with Connor to stage a pity show in the lobby. The manager, who'd seen every kind of crazy, nodded and said, "Not the first time." Comforting. I blocked her everywhere except through my attorney's email. That was the only lifeline she had left. If she wanted to scream into the void, fine. If she wanted to talk to me, she'd have to go through someone who bills by the hour. Of course, the family didn't take it well. Grandma called me in tears about how Haley just needed support, and how I was breaking the family apart. I told her, calmly, that the family had already been apart the moment Haley turned her back on me when I was homeless. Aunt Karen tried a different tactic, guilt-tripping me about how blood is thicker than water. I reminded her that apparently blood was also thicker than eviction notices, because Haley hadn't cared when mine showed up. Brooke was the only one who got it. She looked at the folder I'd built and said, "This isn't a sister. This is a scammer with your last name." She was right. At this point, Haley wasn't family. She was a liability. Nate, on the other hand, told me I should still hear her out. I asked if he'd be willing to loan her $20,000 since he was so understanding. He changed the subject. Funny how that works. So that was my new reality. Haley had tried to pull the old family trick. Cry, guilt, demand. But I'd flipped the script. I had receipts, HR was briefed, a lawyer was on standby, and every door she thought she could pound on was already locked. For the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to manage. I was the one setting the rules. And the best part? I didn't even have to confront her directly. She could scream, send emails, try to drag me on Facebook. It didn't matter. Because now I had the one thing she'd never prepared for. A paper trail that didn't care about her tears, her drama, or her laminated rules. The ball wasn't in her court anymore. Hell, the ball wasn't even on the same court. She was busy throwing tantrums on the playground, and I'd already moved the game inside with referees watching. Haley apparently decided email wasn't theatrical enough. If she was going to guilt-trip me, she wanted an audience. Enter Instagram Live. I was at my desk finishing a ticket when Brooke texted me, "Your sister's live. In your lobby." She sent the link. I clicked and yep, there was Haley, front and center, phone in one hand, stroller parked like a prop. Caption: "My brother lives here and refuses to help his niece." She angled the camera so the building logo was in the background. To nail the shot, she plopped the baby carrier on the floor. Chat immediately started buzzing. "Why's the baby on the ground?" She ignored it. Instead, she launched into a monologue about family obligations. The front desk guy, who deserves a medal, walked over and told her filming wasn't allowed in the lobby. He asked her to pick up the carrier. She kept talking to her viewers like he was background noise. He repeated himself, still boring, still professional. She waved him off and kept rambling about me being upstairs hiding. Brooke, being smarter than all of us, started screen recording the second the live began. She caught the carrier drop, the desk guy's warnings, all of it. Meanwhile, Haley tilted her phone so the carrier was cropped out, then announced to her chat that I was abandoning my family. She wrapped it up with a tearful, "Please share," and rolled out like she'd just finished a TED Talk. Minutes later, she posted the edited clip. No carrier drop, no desk guy. Just her narration about being wronged. She emailed the same clip to my work with the subject line, "FYI on your employee." I didn't reply. I forwarded the email to HR with Brooke's uncut recording and a one-paragraph summary. The front desk manager even wrote a dry note confirming she'd been asked to stop filming and leave. HR's response, "No action. Logged." That was it. The whole drama, nuked with 2 words. But Haley wasn't done. That night, I got an email from the county intake office. They'd received a neglect tip naming me. Haley had reported me, claiming I left a baby on the floor. I called the number, sent them the full video, explained I wasn't even in the lobby, and by the end of the day, they closed the file. Fastest case in history. The intake officer sounded tired in a way only county phones can manage. "You're not the caregiver, you weren't present, and the video contradicts the allegation," she said, then gave me an incident number. Bureaucracy can be slow, but it isn't blind. I logged everything. Timestamps, links, the uncut video, HR's reply, the intake closure. All went into the Haley Receipts folder. At this point, my documentation skills were so good, I should have been billing her for clerical work. Of course, Haley spun it differently online. She reposted her edited clip with a caption about how some people only respond to pressure. Her fans ate it up. A few asked again why the baby was on the floor. She ignored those comments and replied to the supportive ones with heart emojis. Aunt Karen shared Haley's edited clip on Facebook with "Pray for my niece," like she was launching a vigil, then messaged me the link. I replied with the uncut recording. The post quietly disappeared. Grandma didn't call me. She showed up at Haley's with casseroles and took the baby for a long walk while Haley recovered from the ordeal. Nobody checked whether I was okay. Fax had a file number, their support had a photo caption. Haley even tried the company's anonymous tips inbox, submitting the same edited clip with a note about how a team player wouldn't abandon family. The tips alias forwarded it straight to HR, and HR sent me another 2-word email. No action. Honestly, I wanted that reply framed. By the end of the week, the platform pulled her post for harassment. She got a warning, ranted about censorship, and then emailed me again. I hate that it came to this, but you only respond to pressure. Time to prove you're a good brother. She actually used the word coasted, like I hadn't been carrying her since middle school. Grandma called too. She said maybe it was time I heard Haley out. I told her the county already had, and they'd closed the file because the evidence showed she was lying. Grandma sighed and said, I know you're holding a grudge on your sister, 'cause she got everything you didn't, but you are her brother, and you should act good to her. She needs you. At this point, it sounded less like advice and more like gaslighting. By the time Haley wrapped up her little live from the lobby stunt, I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd take the L, go home, and binge Netflix like the rest of us. Wrong. She doubled down. She emailed, she posted, she whined to Grandma, she whined to Aunt Karen. None of it mattered anymore because the receipts folder had gone nuclear, HR was inoculated, and the county had shut the door in her face. The golden child wasn't golden anymore. She was radioactive. The internet gods did their part first. Her cropped video got flagged and yanked off her page for harassment. She got a shiny warning on her account. She posted some melodramatic status about being silenced, and truth tellers always get punished. Yeah, Joan of Arc, you got a strike on Instagram, not burned at the stake. Relax. Next, the building finally had enough of her field trips. They sent me a copy of the official notice. Haley was no longer allowed to film or loiter in the lobby. If she came back with her phone out, security would treat it as trespassing. Watching her lose access to the one stage she thought she could control? Chef's kiss. The lease has a no recording clause posted right by the mailboxes. Nobody reads it until someone needs it. Management emailed a formal letter. Future filming counts as trespass. Security will document. Police will be called if needed. Haley loves an audience. The lobby does not. The real slam dunk came in court. My attorney filed for a 1-year civil harassment restraining order. It was granted without much fuss. Emails, fake invoices, edited videos, police report number, all neatly stapled together. The judge didn't need a long speech. Just looked at the pile of evidence, looked at Haley's antics, and said, order granted. Done. It wasn't a TV jump cut. First came a temporary order, then service, then a hearing where I brought the emails, the edited clips, the uncut video, the HR replies, and the intake closure. She brought speeches. Paper beats speeches most days. The judge reminded her that violating the order meant cuffs, not comments. Consequences aren't a vibe, they're a docket. Now, if she wanted to contact me, she'd have to explain it to the bailiff. Grandma and Aunt Karen showed up to court and sat behind Haley like a cheer section. Karen tried to speak as family until the judge told her it was a hearing, not open mic. Grandma waited in the hallway and posted a photo of the courthouse steps about supporting loved ones through hard times. No names attached. When the order was granted, they didn't apologize. They just left with Haley. The playbook didn't need new lines, just new seats in the gallery. Meanwhile, my life actually started looking normal. I signed a lease for a 1-bedroom with a door that shuts, which felt like winning the lottery after months of couch surfing. Work gave me a raise and a bonus. I had an emergency fund again. My credit score climbed back up from the trenches. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't broke. And that's better than any rug Haley could show off on Instagram. Brooke and I kept things simple. Steady jobs, decent dinners, no live-streamed meltdowns in public lobbies. Nate, who'd been Team Haley apologist for way too long, finally texted me. I was wrong. No kidding, Nate. Took you a restraining order to figure that out, but hey, welcome aboard. Just to round things out, I set up a tiny auto donation to a local rent relief program. Nothing crazy, just enough to make the irony sting. Haley wanted 20 grand. Instead, a couple strangers would get help with their rent. Felt poetic. As for Haley, the restraining order kept her quiet. I left one archive alias in place, a catch-all that forwards anything from her straight to my attorney, while my personal email stayed blocked. Not because I wanted to hear from her, I didn't. But if another rant tried to wriggle through, it turned into evidence automatically. If she ever wants to act like a person again, it starts in writing, through counsel, without threats or an audience. But because every time a new rant popped up, it was more evidence that she hadn't changed. And if she ever did want to change, that's where it would start. Not with threats, not with fake invoices, not with edited videos, but with a written admission of what she pulled. An apology to the people she dragged into it. A year of acting like a normal human being without needing an audience. Until then, she could scream into the void. When I finally moved into my new apartment, I had to ditch my old furniture. Guess who had just sold her couch because she was behind on bills? Haley. So I sent mine over. For free. No laminated contract. No, Connor isn't comfortable. No $300 a week invoice. Just a beat-up couch she could sit on while tallying up her debt. Funny how the same spoiled sister who once tried to charge me $300 a week for her couch now eats dinner on mine. Free of charge.